Hello and welcome to the Solita Deep Dive, where we go through our Collab AI methodology. And we have a very, very exciting session for you today. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Perttu Landström, and I've been with Solita now for 5 years. My background before becoming a consultant is in the startup world. So I've been a founder and CEO of my own company. What I'm passionate about is helping companies accelerate their innovation processes and find value faster. And I'm really happy to be here today together with two of our customers from DNA, Hanttu and Mikael. Would you like to say just a brief introduction?
Sure, I can start. Hello, everybody. My name is Hanna-Kaisa Tahvanainen, and as Perttu said, I go by name Hanttu, and you might see this name appearing in this session later on as well. And I work as a product owner at DNA at the moment.
Hello, everybody on my side as well. Nice to meet you all. And my name is Mikael Ketola. I have worked with DNA now around 10 years. Firstly, I was working with the sales interface, and now my current role is actually customer lifetime value manager. So try to ensure how we serve our customers on the life cycle.
And what we're doing here today is we'll introduce you the CollabAI method, and we'll talk about how to use AI to get real value and real results. And then we'll also have a lot of time to go through the actual case that we worked together with Hanttu and Mikael and the rest of the team over at DNA. But first, a little bit of a background. If we think about how we actually do products and build products in any enterprise setting, it's actually mostly just waiting around. And actually, if you just do the math, you find out pretty quickly that the majority of the time, 85 to 95% of a product's life cycle from idea to being deployed is actually just waiting. It's in backlog somewhere. It's waiting to be resourced. It's on somebody's desk waiting to be decided on. And we don't measure this work. The product managers don't understand the cost of this delay, the cost of having all of this value chucked down in these kinds of pipelines. We're very obsessed about the work, and we don't see what these queues are doing to our productivity. And in those corporations, it's actually deciding what to do that's in a lot of cases slowing us down in getting to value. So not doing, but actually deciding. And these are very separate processes and very different processes. But it's very common if you, for example, look at the case here. It takes a day to get an internal go-ahead. It takes a month to do the design work, a couple of months to do development, and 3 weeks to deploy. But if we look at the time from idea to actual value being delivered, it's a lot of time, mostly just waiting. And it's also the case that these decision-making processes, they're very long and complicated. There's the annual budgeting, there's the strategy cycles. And once we are locked in, we have our budget, we have our backlog, we have our roadmap, it's very difficult for us to change. Like if you even think about it in your organization, what if the development team or the design team figured out that this is not the right idea when they are actually doing the work? What would it take for them to actually pivot into something that would make more sense? They would have to convince multiple levels of management, and most often this is just not practical, so we don't do it. And that leads to a lot of products and features not delivering value as we expect. And now with AI, we're investing a lot of money into this, and we should. AI is amazing, and it is like a real boon in productivity. And if we only think about doing, we're not solving the right problem. The average developer is coding for 52 minutes a day, and we're very obsessed about how can we give them, like these developers, better AI tools, and we should give them the tools, but we should also recognize that most of the time is not spent actually coding. It's other kinds of processes, and it's the decision making that is really killing the productivity. And if we just accelerate this execution phase, that's not going to be productivity. It's going to be accelerating waste. And it's also perhaps the reason why, if we look at the actual macroeconomic impact of AI so far, it's surprisingly small. AI is everywhere except the incoming macroeconomic data. And a lot of companies have this experience, and this is getting better, like these numbers, but still pretty dismal. That majority of these initiatives with AI are not delivering the kind of value that we are expecting, at least in terms of measurable outputs. And this is really a good example of the wider gap that we've seen between development and business, or doing and planning, deciding and executing. And this is something we've been obsessing over at Solita for ever since for as long as we've been around, and we've tried to help our customers in figuring out how they could bridge this gap and do this better. But this is really a more pressing issue than before, because of how much more we can do with AI and how much more pressure that like increased volume of output is putting on our decision-making systems. So don't ask how to make individuals faster with AI. How can we help everybody get faster with co-pilots? But it's a better thing to ask, like, how can AI change how we work together as organizations, and how can we deliver value faster? And this is the kind of idea we hold at Solita very, very centrally, is that we try to create impact and we try to connect, and we build with the data, with AI, with all these advanced technologies, but we always build around humans and around real organizations and these kinds of settings. And what we've had tremendous success with is the CollabAI methodology, and that's why we're sharing this story with you today. What if deciding and doing were the same activity? This is the essence of CollabAI. And the name, it comes from Marco's book. It's a great book, AI Teamwork in Practice. You can find that online as well, and we have it in the docs. Very good stuff. And the inspiration comes from Mob AI, which is a methodology developed at the Musk companies. If you, for example, look at what's going on at a company like SpaceX or Tesla or whatever, like if, for example, in the space industry, if you look at the kind of actual metrics, there's not much happened for 50 years if you just look at the efficiency of delivering material to orbit. And then around 2005, something changed. And this massive, massive improvement and in efficiency. And of course, maybe you've seen this, what has actually become possible in this space. But what's really the key thing to understand about the Musk companies is the way that they work. They work in small teams that they call swarms. And this is the kind of operating logic at the Musk companies. And the idea is that you bring the people who are necessary to complete some increment of value. For example, improve the fuel efficiency of your rocket, or make it a little bit lighter, like some specific component. And you bring these people together so that they can execute that small thing end to end without having much external dependencies. And you give them powerful AI tools to help them accelerate that value creation. And what that looks like is small teams doing meaningful progress in a single day. And as an example, in 69 days, the team at SpaceX, they made 1,000 changes to the rocket system. So these are end-to-end delivered actual changes in the physics of the rocket. And this is also the reason why a company like Tesla, every third car that rolls out of the conveyor belt is somehow different, because that rapid speed of continuous improvement is so impressive. So the basic idea is, instead of having these separate processes and queues between them, hey, do design, move it to development, move it to deployment, we go towards collaborative teamwork where we can all do these things together, and we bring all of the brilliant minds that we need to solve the problem in the same space at the same time, and we give them AI tools to make them much faster and more efficient in doing that work. And what this means in practice is, for example, if we bring the business stakeholder who knows why we need this, and the designer, and the developer, and architect, and legacy expert, and we get all of this expertise and knowledge and understanding in the same room, and we have the decision-making authority in that room, then we can move very fast. And we can go from a world where we would generate prototypes, for example, in the design phase, and then we would wait until next Thursday's weekly meeting so that we can show those prototypes to the decision maker that, hey, is this something that you were thinking about? We can go into this continuous flow, generate prototype, review, generate prototype, review, create a documentation, proposal, review, iterate, and move very, very fast. Continuous flow of decisions instead of long backlogs waiting and having a lot of time spent in review meetings and sync meetings where we try to create shared understanding. This is really the key point. Instead of making very high impact decisions once or twice a week, we're making small iterative decisions every 5 to 10 minutes. And that gives us tremendous speed and ability to react as things change. And we'll have great examples about how this worked in practice with the DNA case. And one more thing that is really like a big unlock in this kind of way of working is killing your dragons. And every organization has a dragon. It's the legacy backend system that has grown large and is created by or it's this collection of systems, and some of these you're phasing out, and it's the old legacy that is very difficult for you to work with, or those databases that have gotten tangled up, or the decision matrix jungle that has been accumulated over decades of decisions and has become very complicated and hard to understand. And you might have one people who understands what's at the tail, and you might have another team or a person who understands a little bit about the feet or the wings or the face of the dragon. But when you bring these people together and you actually start to create momentum with the AI tools that can help you in gather all of this context and make sense of it, then you can actually make some progress. Because these dragons are so hard to work with because it just takes so much time to understand them that it's very difficult to make meaningful progress. But now it's possible with these AI tools. And finally, about learning AI. These tools they're instruments, and using them is a lot more like playing a guitar than using Excel, for example. Every person writes a bit differently. They have a different experience as a result because they're prompting in a different way, and there's no one rule book on how it works. And if you find that one rule book, I'm pretty sure that that's going to be outdated by the time that it reaches some a course on a learning platform, because these tools are evolving so fast. The way to actually learn them and to get value out of them is to use them. And it's much better to do this together as a team, working in our context, solving problems that are actually relevant to us compared to this lecture setting. And in the CollabAI method, we have two roles. We have the driver who's using the computer, and the navigator, who are everybody else helping this driver succeed and drive with the AI tools. And we alternate these roles during our sessions so that every person in the team has the opportunity to drive and to learn these tools in practice. And this has created tremendous acceleration in the learning and picking up these tools for people who can participate in these sessions. That's the brief version of the CollabAI, and we'd love to share next a little bit about the experiences and the practicalities of what took place when we worked together with DNA on working on their Store Master concept for 9 intensive working days over a 3-week period. So welcome back, Mikael and Hunt.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Something about the project background. So DNA is a telecommunications company working in Finland, and we do have more than 60 stores around Finland. So that's the background of this. But let me start with a simple observation. When we began looking at the sales environment at DNA Kauppa stores, we noticed something interesting. Our sales teams were working hard to serve customers, but information they needed was scattered across many different systems. Customer data lived in different places, different tools, showed different pieces of the story. And as the result, full picture of the customer relationship was often difficult to see. And that leads to a very simple question: how you can serve customer well if you can't easily see the whole story? Our stores serve both customer and business customers across Finland. Every day, salespeople help customers with operator services, devices, and additional services. But the sales situation itself can begin in many different ways. A customer walks in with a device problem, contract question, or simply curiosity about new services. And behind the scenes, there is actually a lot of data available. The challenge has never really been the lack of data. The challenge has been making the right data visible at the right moment. So the salesperson can immediately understand the customer situation and identify the opportunities to help them further. And this is where the image on the slide becomes relevant. You can think of like a group of explorers studying a map, carefully planning their next move. They are analyzing the routes, discussing options, examining details, but meanwhile the user is standing right there on the path, waving and saying, "Hey, I'm over here." It's surprisingly easy, even in tech projects, to focus much on the system features and the data that we accidentally forget the most important in the journey, the user. So the core question for our project became how we can give salespeople a clear, immediate understanding of entire customer relationship in one place. And we wanted to go even further than that. Is it better data visibility enough to improve sales outcomes? Or is it actually the functionality of the tools that makes the real difference? Along the way, we started identifying something very practical, the small frictions and blockers inside existing systems that slows salespeople down. Sometimes improving sales isn't adding more feature, it's removing the complexity. This is where the CollabAI AI method became extra valuable for us. Instead of locking the project in the scope from the beginning, CollabAI allowed us to explore ideas that might previously have been dismissed as out of the scope. It encouraged the team continuously learn from the real user and adjust direction based on what we heard interviews and testing. As a result, we were able to validate ideas and the end user from the beginning, and perhaps most importantly, we were able to achieve in a days what earlier might have taken months. So today I will walk through how this journey started, what we discovered along the way, and what happens when you truly bring the user back to the center of the map. So once we had framed the challenge, the next step was simple. We wanted to truly understand the problem before jumping into solutions. We spoke with the people who know the sales environment the best. In total, we interviewed more than 20 different experts across the DNA organization. But conversations alone weren't enough. We wanted to learn by building. So the project we created and tested more than 10 different prototype ideas. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, but every single one helped us to understand the sales situation a little better. And mostly importantly, we didn't test these ideas only in the meeting rooms. We also visited in the DNA stores. met the salespeople and tested prototypes in a real sales environment, seeing how people actually interact with the tools changes our understanding. Throughout the project, the process, we also documented everything along the way, the session, assumptions, reflections, and the lessons learned. By the end of the project, these had grown into thousands of lines of notes and insights, and the pace was quite remarkable. In just 9 intensive working days spread across 3 weeks, we moved exploration to real proof of concept, built in production level code and already calling a real APIs. So instead of theoretical idea, we ended something concrete that could actually be tested and experimented. So the natural question is, how did we actually structure those 9 working days? We split the working across 3 weeks with 3 intensive days of work each, and each week had very clear focus. Week 1 was about observation. We analyzed the current situation, existing concept, and surrounding business context. Throughout expert interviews, we clarify the real business goals and requirements. One of interesting outcome was that user interviews quickly shift the direction beyond the original project scope. Some of the assumptions were started simplified, didn't hold up once we spoke to real users. Week 2, we focused on clarification and validation. At this point, we began testing ideas directly with ideas users while continuously building and iterating prototypes. In one customer meeting, we actually created a new prototype live, something that didn't exist when we started the meeting, and immediately saw how the user actually reacted to it. At the same time, we also started mapping and technical requirements behind these ideas and identifying possible constraints and for implementation. And finally, week 3, we focused the architecture and implementation. We evaluated technical capabilities, defined the system architecture, and clarified what should be included in the MVP and what should come later. And by end of that week, we had a functional proof of concept running with the real APIs integrations. Okay, Hanttu, could you continue?
Yes, thank you, Mikael. And hi again from my side as well. So here we have few examples on how we leverage the AI with our work. So for example, we kept the daily log, and the log collected, for example, the decisions made and open things to solve, but it also collected the feelings, the mood, the energy that we had in the group. And this was, I think, the most exciting part for me to check these out retrospectively, how we went on with the project phases. We also used AI to get most out of the expert interviews. So we made AI help us to find what kind of information we truly need from different experts. For example, the architect is in the room now. You can ask him 3 questions. So this way we were able to find what the AI also needs to move forward and what we need to succeed. And of course, there was a vast interest to our project inside DNA. So we had a lot of needs to build demos and communication materials to show to different stakeholders. And when everything was on tape, it was easy to cook the right kind of material to specific target audience quickly. And it didn't need or I didn't need to be a developer to actually cook this up. So it was amazing. And here is a picture of us in the room. So this is how it looked. We sat together in DNA office around the table and worked on the same problem. And there was a specific benefit of being there and working face to face. We will come back to this a bit later, but it, for example, removed a lot of multitasking when we actually were there and looking at each other and interacting with each other. It came the method really concrete and the benefits as well. What also happened is that people started installing AI tools. And for me personally, I had quite light experience with AI tools beforehand. I carried out some very light requests and didn't really know how to effectively iterate those materials with the AI forward. But during the first few project days, I already started to see ways I could use these tools and methodology as well in my daily work to speed up things and make me work more efficiently. But one thing that is very important to consider is to have a clear communication on what data is okay to be fed to AI and what tools are approved inside each company. And these clear guidelines will protect your company, and at the same time, it will give confidence to the personnel using those tools in their daily work. So they know that this is okay, I can use this data with this tool and it will help me go forward. And then back to you, Mikael.
Yes. So about this slide, this was more likely deepening the collaboration between the organization. So as a business owner of this project, I was not that familiar with the tech side, but during this project, I understood how the organization structure actually works. And I think CollabAI method has enabled closer contact with the dev team. So it's clear for me. And even the things that business side from the company, we need to give a more clear communications what we really want to have, so we could talk the same language. That was my one of the biggest like learning journeys during this project. And about Hanttu's role, we need kind of own Hanttu in the project. Somebody who knows the organization, somebody who can reduce the bottlenecks, the thing that who we are going to talk next. We don't need to like figure it out and send 1,000 of emails or Teams messages. Hanttu like already know who to contact next. So that was pretty cool effect, and I believe that every CollabAI project team could need this kind of people in it. So back to you, Hanttu.
Thank you. So let's say that you now have the people brought together in the room and you have your Hanttu. So is this enough now? And I would say most probably not. So like any team, there is something extra that is needed to bring the group together and actually work as a team. And psychological safety is crucial. Everyone needs to know their voice is heard and they are respected. I cannot kind of underline this enough. And there are different ways, of course, to build the team. But I think that what worked for us especially well were those fun moments when we had fun with the AI. So for example, when we gamified the decision making or designed a logo for our new tool. So there is something really magical in those moments when you share a laughter together. in a team. And I think that was one big thing for us when we kind of formulated from individuals to actually working team. Then there is also a very important thing when you start organizing this kind of CollabAI project is you need to give permission to people to focus and leave everything else. Just focus on that thing. So it might seem kind of a harsh requirement, but as it's said in here in the slide, that it's actually a gift. So everybody can think like how many times per week you have more than 1 hour to focus on certain thing, and just it's okay to leave the Teams chat be and emails to be. So that's one thing, as one way to look at it. So let people focus, I would say. That's very important. And being in the same room physically is actually accelerating this. As I said, it made the multitasking more difficult. And also, if you invest in CollabAI, invest having a good facilitator in place. I personally have a tendency to overdo things when I prepare for workshops or project kickoffs, and I stress about, do we get enough outputs out of these things? When we had this CollabAI, I could just show up, and immediately during the first days, I could feel that we were in good hands. And when you have someone who is genuinely interested and highly experienced on using the tools and about this method, they know what to do next. They know when to skip the script, and that is very important, and it enables the people working in the project to actually concentrate on the things that matter. And when the facilitation is done right, like in our case, thank you, Perttu, and the facilitator becomes more like a mentor who doesn't hesitate to share his vast knowledge on these things. And I personally have learned more than I could have ever imagined in the beginning of this project. Okay, so Mikael already mentioned this, but this is actually a real case. So I think all of us have learned this like a gazillion times. Fail fast. But how many times have you actually done it in minutes instead of days, weeks, or months? So we had multiple cases like this during our project when the speed provided by AI got us move with turbo speed, I would say. So one time we built this extra prototype during the user interview based on what the person described that could help them in their daily work. And we showed it to them, and it was a great success. Amazing point in our journey. Another time we built, we had a killer idea which seemed like a jackpot on paper. We built a prototype of it, and we looked at it and see that this is not actually good at all. And we killed it. And it took us about 30 minutes. So the speed that AI is bringing to this learning curve is huge. It's massive. But it's also important to remember that AI is not a magic box that delivers perfect results all the time. It's a co-learner. So when you experiment, you fail and you learn, you do it together with an AI. And then to my favorite topic, documentation. And now I'm again asking you, like, be honest. Who can say that they are always delivering detailed and up-to-date quality documentation that could be picked up by someone else and work against? I know I don't have that kind of documentation in place in my work, but now during this process, I've had a concrete reason why I will in the future. So documentation is a fuel to AI. And during the first project days, I was kind of embarrassed because I couldn't find the suitable documentation to help the team to feed to AI and kind of start building things. But we overcame it. We started documenting everything ourselves. We built even a system for it. We stored it in a way that AI could use it whenever we needed to. It was a massive unlock for the future development when you know that AI has the relevant information and correct information to proceed, for example, the quality code. So instead of having a static files into somewhere dusting up, you have actually a documentation in place that you can ask questions to and kind of continue building and continue updating. And that was a very important moment for me personally. And finally, from my part, I wanted to say that let the AI become your team's memory. So when you document everything, also the reflections and feelings, you almost have a time machine in your hands. So you can retrospectively spot also the small wins and the pivots and rationales behind decisions and lessons learned. And you might even discover that AI became your team member. The kind of team member that tirelessly drove all night and people were navigating. And with this, I think I can close by saying that we didn't just make AI work in our project, but we collaborated with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikael and Hanttu. And we have now time for questions. Thank you. We already have a good list there in the Q&A. And we do not have a hard stop at 11:15. So if you have the time, it's okay to stick around and we can extend the Q&A session a little bit longer. But let's get going. Maybe as the first one I could pick from here is, Hanttu, you mentioned, or actually Mikael, you said that you need a Hanttu, but how did you Hanttu know who to invite to the team or to the meeting?
Well, that is a very good question. I've worked for DNA now for about five years, although I have a few maternity leaves in between. But I know a lot of people inside our organization, or at least I know people that know people. So that was easy for me to kind of contact someone who could get us forward, not necessarily someone who could immediately tell us what to do, but to kind of help us to contact the next person. And these are also people skills that maybe you need to be genuinely interested in people. And in these remote days that we are having right now, it's a bit more difficult to kind of formulate the relationship between colleagues that are not directly working with you every day. But it's the experience in the organization that helps a lot when you talk about this kind of obstacle remover role.
Yeah, I just maybe underline one point there is that if you think about this kind of speed that we're trying to do things, like we have 3 full working days in a week, and if we're hitting a blocker, hey, we don't understand this backend system, or we need this architect on the line so we can discuss some like big decisions. It's a really big difference. Like, do we get the meeting next week, or do we get it like this afternoon, even if it's a short one, so we can remove those blockers and keep moving. So this is a super important case. Maybe let's pick up the next one. So in the DNA Kauppa case, could the team have decided to take the new tools in live use, or are further rounds of acceptance testing and management decisions needed? So I suppose the question is a bit that, or how does it go from here? New tools in live use. Or maybe this question is about the AI tooling. Maybe if that's the angle, I could start. So with these AI tools, there's mostly it's about data. So and when we think about what tool we can use, the question is often what data can we provide to the model. And there's a few considerations there. Is that one, is the provider of that service going to use our data for training their own models? And for most of these tools, when you have the enterprise subscriptions, this is a toggle that is off by default. So that's one consideration. But we use the tools quite liberally, also ones where we don't have this guarantee, but then we would just think about, okay, what data can we use? And if needed, could we clean up the data so that we can use these tools? Then the second question is the data residency. Like, is this data something that we need to do some regulations or our internal policies keep, for example, in Europe? And then that will restrict the tool selection a little bit. So those are the kind of two important parts regarding the data, and it's good to be practical with these and also recognize that it's not that is this tool approved or that tool approved. Is what are the problems with it, and especially the data handling. And of course, the second part is then running, for example, coding agent in a secure environment. So that's something that in this case we could provide from Solita side, is like how to run this sandbox so that it's safe to operate. Anything to add on that? Let's pick. Yeah, maybe this one. What happened after the proof of concept in this project? How fast did it move into production, and what's the status on that right now? Maybe Hantu, you can take this one.
Yeah. So a bit coming back to the previous question as well. So when we started this project, we had kind of two options that were gave to us, like experiment and learn the tools and fail miserably, and nothing code-like will come out of it. Well, I didn't like that approach, so we kind of in the beginning already kind of pushed for having the actual code in place. And of course, there are further acceptance testings needed along the way, and important things to consider. But now this is now project day 22. Tech team is actually working there as we speak. We are in the situation that we have a code base in our real environments, and originally already accepted by a group of other developers that we have in place. So I think we are in a very good position at the moment. So we are ready to continue working and building something to be live for the salespeople to have in their hands.
Excellent. There's one quite technical question, but it has a few thumbs up, so I'll answer. Is how does this change deployment, and more specifically, the question is about small language models and what would the role of those be? So what a small language model is often open weights or open source model that is much smaller than can, for example, be run locally. And since it's open, you can actually train that to be specific for your environment. And there's in EU, the company Mistral in France is actually quite advanced in this. But when we think about the kind of everyday enterprise use, at least my view right now is that these are they're interesting and they're cool, but you get so much intelligence and power from the top tier large language models that I really recommend sticking with those. And that has been a huge unlock, and especially what we used a lot in this project is the Opus 4.5 and 4.6 models from Anthropic, and we had a lot of these Opus moments, which were really cool, where the model can reason through, for example, the team logs and surface these kind of undercurrents that we might have missed, and really help us clarify our thinking and help us move forward. And that's a huge unlock. But yeah, I'll not go into the deployment side too much. Let's pick a few more highlighted ones. I understand the service design method, participatory design assisted with AI. Could you summarize in which phases or tasks the AI is utilized and how it improves the design process? So maybe we could rephrase this as like, how do we say AI changing how we design, and how do we take users into the picture? And I think we touched that a little bit about, for example, the case of how could we create a prototype live together with the user, or use AI to prepare for a customer or a user interview, for example. But anything you'd like to say, Hunt, about that, like from your point of view? How do you see the understanding the user being different now with AI tooling?
Well, for example, as long as we went on, we had the multiple interviews, the AI was able to help us build the understanding from each of those interviews, and also make suggestions like what to test next and what to kind of dig out from these interviews in more detail. We had a very seasoned user testers in our group, but even they thought that there was some very exciting things that AI suggested for us to test in the upcoming interviews. And when everything was documented, it was easy to come back to those previous interviews and kind of see the logic that AI had built from those experiences or interviews.
Yeah, maybe the same angle for you, Mikael. If you think about how do you see AI changing this, like deciding what we build, and maybe if you can take a little bit for like a business owner point of view, that how do we better know what is going to deliver value and get it actually delivered and find the right path?
Well, that's a good question. And I think there is not a like proper answer to that one that which clearly shows you the right path. I think we need to just explore it and as well test it and use the prototypes and talk with the end users. Because otherwise, if we are building something just by our own, in the old world, it would like go that we make the concept and we ask the dev team to do it, and then we would like to see the opinions about the end user. But now we are talking all the time with the end users, so we are making actually the system for them, not for the business owners, and which looks good in the Excel. So I think this is the key point of that.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to the failing part as well. So if you fail in 30 minutes or 15 minutes or even in an hour, it's not that much money on the table spent at that moment. But instead, if you have had a group of people working on it for weeks, the price tag starts to be in that kind of shape that you are very hesitant to kind of discard that at that point. So definitely the speed in validating things is a huge thing that we have kind of explored with.
Yeah. There's a few questions about the documentation and also like this, how do we, for example, collect the team logs and such. But a good practice for running these kinds of workshops is to start the day by writing out a plan. What are we going to do today? What is the current understanding we have in the team of what we need to achieve to deliver value? And throughout the day to update these logs, and also use AI as we, for example, might create prototypes or artifacts, discuss about them and try to capture those conversations. And at the end of the day, we would always close with a round of reflections. So we would just go around the room and each of us would just share, what did I experience today? What worked? Was something frustrating? What do I think is like the next thing we should think about? And also lay that as a seed for the next day. So over time, we create this kind of log of reflections and experiences that we can then use AI to, for example, capture that. How did it go, and how did our thinking evolve throughout the journey? And in terms of like practically, these are files on the computer, text files in the markdown format. That's the convention that's most easy for AI to work with and understand, and also something we could do. So the coding editor is the kind of place where this would happen, or just writing in a notepad and saving those files and storing those in a repository so everybody can access those. Anything to add on the documentation? Yeah, and of course, use of transcripts, also something that I think doing this again. Actually, I have a new piece for my facilitation kit for next time is these microphones. So next time we can have these little mics on the table and get really high quality audio for everything. So better transcripts, but it's just try to capture that data, all of those tokens that us humans are putting out, so that AI can use. Maybe I'll pick this one up because it's interesting. In many organizations, generative AI is pushed hard by leadership, and there's this called like AI fatigue, or like negative counter reactions. And I'm sure this is true in every organization. But do you have any thoughts on how to combat that, and how to get people excited about AI or CollabAI? Yeah, go ahead.
Could you repeat, Perttu? Could you repeat?
Yeah, so in organizations, AI is pushed quite hard by leadership. So hey, adopt these tools, and that's something we might also measure. Like for example, in Solita, it's very important to track how many people have taken some trainings. And this is also this experience of AI fatigue, because it's pushed on people from all angles, and might have this negative counter reaction. Like, do you have any thoughts on how to get people excited about AI?
Again, a good question. It's very common problem that, as Hanttu mentioned, that it's basically what we don't often understand, what we can like fed to the AI, and that's, I think, a big blocker. And when people don't know about the rules, what we can like put it on business side of things to AI, are we giving us something that we shouldn't? That's a big blocker. But probably you need to just again explore it in the sandbox version, enterprise versions, and that you're safe to use the tools. But otherwise, if you don't have a clear instructions how to do it, it will affect negatively.
I can continue from here as well. So I think it's also, in my organization, I have very dear colleagues who have had some not so great experiences with AI, and I totally get them. And I think that if I hadn't gone through this journey with you, Solita, people, it would have been totally different for me as well. And we come back to this facilitator role and the importance. So when you have a chance to see the tools work in an actual environment, solving an actual problem, and people really concentrating on it, and there is someone who can tell you how to do that, it's totally different than playing with Microsoft Copilot by yourself. So of course you need to play around, but you need someone to actually show how to unlock these massive opportunities that these tools have. So I'm all for AI now, and maybe even too eagerly speaking about it to my colleagues who are not maybe so eager. But I'm very confident that I can influence them to take these leaps forward as well. So you need good experiences and you need the actual doing to get people invested and excited.
Yes, and it's a big shift when you go from, for example, just the Microsoft Copilot or the ChatGPT, where you have the chat window, to an environment where you can have your files and you can actually better manage the context that you use, give it the logs, and have that all kind of easily available to the model. And then you also quite quickly you can take the steps to creating your own custom agents or these ready-made workflows that, okay, when we want to make a presentation, we can create the skill for the agent to do that in a format that we like, so that we don't have to wrestle so much about this stuff every day, but it gets better over time. And once you get to that stage, then you realize that, hey, this thing can do anything, like any kind of knowledge work. You can create an AI system that can do that well, and that's only accelerating. So it's very exciting once you get past that hump and you realize the coding tool is no longer a coding tool. It's a general knowledge work platform. And that's a massive step once you get there. Great. Thank you so much for joining. And thanks again, Mikael and Hanttu. And our work continues. So I'll meet you on Thursday. And thanks so much for coming and sharing your experiences. And thank you, everybody in the audience. And if you have any questions, please reach out and find Marco's book about CollabAI, find the online resources, and try this. And you can even do a short one. You can do like a 3-hour demo CollabAI session, see how it goes. And if you need any tips, then we're super happy to help you get going. So thanks, everybody, and you have a great day.
Thank you for having us, and have a great day.
Thank you.